Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Wanted to do another of my In the News shows. A few companies that I follow very closely had news out today that I want to talk about. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the big trends that I'm seeing out there that are really market-moving trends. And the key one is the U.S. dollar. When the U.S. dollar is strong like it was since the middle part of 2021 until November of 2022, it puts a lot of pressure on the price of gold, which is priced the most watched price is the one how it's doing against the U.S. dollar. And what often happens with gold, it happens with the entire metal sector. So during this period, gold was under pressure, and then the US dollar topped. It looked like the currency traders got very worried that the Federal Reserve is about to slow down their interest rate hikes. They had been on a relentless path of 0.75% moves. And then in December, they shut it down to a 0.5%. And then in February, down to 0.25%. As you can see, the 50-day moving average has been on a steep decline. Now, in the last few days, there was a bit of a rally in the U.S. dollar here because on Friday, the employment numbers came out, and it started to get bullish because I think the currency traders were having a bit of a relief rally, thinking that the Federal Reserve is going to keep on their relentless interest rate hikes. I think they're getting very close to what they even feel is their peak rate, between 5 and 5.5%. So they maybe have two more meetings of 0.25%, then they'll be done. Then they'll let the economic numbers come in. It's already lots of evidence that they are breaking things. You can see it in the housing numbers. You can see it in other economic indicators that are all saying that, this year is going to head for a recession. And when the recession kicks in, guess what they're going to have to do? Their next rounds of quantitative easing. So this short-term run here, I think, is getting very long in the tooth. It's now trading right on the 50-day moving average. And I think it's ready for another decline, to get back into a decline that takes it well below the 50-day moving average. As you can see, the 200-day moving average is rolling over as well. So 2023 is shaping up for a very difficult year for the US dollar. You can also see that in early January, they went through a death cross and had a very negative January effect reading. So I think a lot of signs are that the US dollar is under trouble. Okay, so now let's go to gold. And on the gold chart, I want to point out some pretty important things. So here is gold as the US dollar was reaching its peak. Here was gold reaching its 52-week lows. Then it had a triple bottom. And as the US dollar broke down, the price of gold blasted off. It went well through the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And although it's corrected in the last few days as the US dollar has gotten stronger, it's still trading well above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And it looks like the 200-day moving average is about to start going in the bullish direction. Also point out that in January, it went through a golden cross, and it had an exceptional January effect reading, as you can see here. And that's often a good sign of what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. But what I want to go back to is this movement here had caused the gold stocks to get very oversold, down to record lows. And this is very indicative or very similar to what happened in the year 2000. At that time, we had a strong US dollar, weak gold, and the gold stocks and other metals-related stocks were at record lows. Then in 2001, we started the greatest bull market ever for gold and other metals. And I think that's what we have started in November here. Now, another indication that we're on the early days of a bull market is that if you look at the conviction of the gold stocks, there's no conviction. Here, the gold stocks, yes, they were, a lot of the quality ones were performing much better, but then just a few days of trading, and a lot of them have given back a lot of their big gains. And so there's really not a lot of bullish conviction. Yes, investors are getting more bullish when it moves up like this, but then in a couple of days, they lose all their conviction. And that's a sign to me that we're in the early days of a bull market for gold. Okay, so the first company I'm going to talk about is Sokoman. Let's first pull up their news. Sokoman Minerals. And there we go. And we'll get to their news. And here is the news from, they don't have it up on the website yet. I'm going to go to ceo.ca. It's on there already. So let's go to Sokoman. Just bear with me a second here as I pull some news up. And it was on the wires earlier this morning. And here it is. Okay, Sokoman reports additional high-grade gold at the Eastern Trend on the Moosehead Gold Project in central Newfoundland. Hole MH22-505 cuts 21.35 meters of 9.75 grams per ton gold from their Eastern Trend, and a new zone was intersected at South Pond. So let's start with this 505 hole. Cut 21.35 meters, averaging 9.75 grams per ton gold, including 7.75 meters, averaging 21.82 grams per ton gold from 199 meters down hole. That's some really nice high-grade gold that they're hitting in the part of the Eastern Trend, okay? It deviated slightly and passed above the 463 zone. This is important because the 463 zone is where they hit bonanza gold in a trend that looks like it is the Eastern Trend's like this, and this 463 zone is coming up in an opposite direction, which is exactly like the Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine in Australia, which was one of the great orogenic gold discoveries and mines that helped Kirkland Lake be one of the lowest cost producers of gold, high grade, high margins. They were outperformed their peers dramatically, and they were taken over when the Swan Zone was the answer for that. And I believe that Sokoman has hit their first Swan Zone on that Moosehead project. The hole deviated slightly and passed above the targeted 463 zone. But here's some more important information. Multiple narrow quartz veins with specks of visible gold were intersected in the portion of MH22-505 closest to the 463 zone. The veins occur at high angles to core axis, are oblique to the Eastern Trend, and are north-northeast trending points which validate the current 463 zone model. So again, at Swan Zone, you had zones that would go like this and then come in from another angle. And where they meet and where they do that is very important. Now, even the specks of visible gold above that 463 zone are important, because what happens is, as you're high in an orogenic gold system, you get fine gold, okay? And as you get into a Swan Zone, you get much coarser gold. And why that happens is you're moving closer to the heat engine that had the heat and the pressure to bring those high-grade gold into up closer to surface and follow those zones. And the case that above the zone you're hitting specs is a good indication that below that you're going to find coarser gold and higher grade. So that's why they're so excited about this 463 zone. But then they had another hole out. Oh, they also mentioned that a second hole, MH22512, targeting the 463 zone, has been collared from the west side of the North Pond to be used as a pilot hole to wedge additional holes. These drill holes will test for additional folded splays unrecognized to date with heavy bias of the drilling, the moderately east dipping eastern trend from west to east. So there again, they're talking about how these zones are coming in at different angles. And now they're going to put a hole in as a mother hole, and then they'll wedge off of that so they can do multiple directional holes from that mother hole and wedge holes. Another important development was the new zone at South Pond. The new 511 zone has been intersected in 2 holes testing an IP response under the South Pond. The intersections are 250 meters south of the South Pond zone, where drills intersected 5 meters at 26.87 grams per ton gold, including 2.15 meters at 60.59 grams. So you're getting your bonanza grades over very good thickness for bonanza grade gold. And that was from 47 meters downhole in hole 123. The 511 zone was initially intersected in hole 510, where a 3.55 meter wide zone of mineralization grading 0.9 grams per ton gold was cut at a downhole depth of 419 meters. Hole MH22511, 100 meters to the south, intersected 20.97 wide mineralized meter wide mineralized zone, that's core length, averaging 1.12 grams per ton gold with a higher grade section, 3.6 meters, averaging 2.32 grams per ton gold, starting at 336 meters downhole. The 511 hole hosted in sediments cut by altered mafic dikes carrying up to 5% disseminated pyrite and arsenopyrite with 20 to 30% quartz carbonate veining is open to the south and at depth. This mineralization style is found in most gold zones at Moosehead and is often associated with higher grade, visible gold bearing quartz veins. It is still not known if the intersection in hole 510 and 511 are one continuous zone or 2 separate sub-parallel zones. Additional holes are planned for the area. I'm excited about the fact that they're starting to get deeper into this orogenic gold system. That for the last few years, they had been focusing, let's say, in the first couple hundred meters. Now that they're getting deeper, they're hitting this 463 zone, the 511 zone. And this is exciting stuff that they're hitting here. Tim Froud, who's the president and CEO of Sokoman, says, and I quote, "We are very pleased to report the progress of drilling at both the 463 zone and the new 511 zone in MH 510 and 511 at South Pond. Diamond drill hole MH22505 initially reported in December 2022, deviated and passed over the top of the 463 zone. As a result, MH22512, the second hole directed towards the 463 zone, was positioned to test the lower portion of the zone in the event that if the hole does stray, we will then be able to wedge off of it. Hole MH22505 was a very successful hole in that it was able to cut a good slice through the main eastern trend, as well as providing additional information in the vicinity of the 463 zone. It is now becoming apparent that these possibly are more mineralized splays developing in the footwall to the eastern trend based on the number of high-angle veins and shear zones intersected in MH22505. At least 6 mineralized intervals were cut in the footwall below the main eastern trend. It will take more drilling of the footwall area to determine the significance of these zones in addition to the primary target at 463. We are also encouraged by intersections in both holes in the new 511 zone at South Pond. While grades are modest, the setting is similar to that encountered at most mineralized zones at Moosehead, with higher grade visible gold-bearing veins, spatially associated with altered mineralized mafic dikes. The 511 zone is open to the south end to depth and lies proximal to the intersection of at least two major structures, the Eastern Trend and the Valentine Lake Shear Zone. Multiple drill holes will test in the coming weeks, end quote. So then you can see here's that 463 zone, and way down here is the 511 zone, which is looking quite interesting. Here's 505, where it hit 21 meters and 9.7 grams of gold. It also cut 8.4 meters at 2 grams of gold here. So this gold system is hanging in quite nicely. And then here is the 463 hits. The 505 was above where they wanted to hit, but they still got sniffs of that gold, and it was visible gold. So that's fine grain gold. Really important stuff. Okay, so now let's look at the stock, and we'll go to Sokoman. And Sokoman, as you can see, it went through a golden cross in January. It's now trading well above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. They've got a lot of stuff pending, a lot of drilling happening. I think what we're going to see happen here is the 200-day will start to trend upwards, and the 50-day will continue to move upwards with the potential for significant breakouts. I'm really bullish on what I'm seeing ever since back here. This is when they started to get excited about the 463 zone, and it's continuously making higher highs. Not so much on the higher lows, but not so much on the higher highs. I think we're very close to seeing a significant breakout to the upside. One of the catalysts will be stronger gold prices, which I see coming, as well as news from their drilling. All right, so now I'm going to move over to I-80 Gold, because I-80 Gold had some important news out today as well. Oh, by the way, Sokoman is a sponsor of my shows, as is I-80 Gold. Okay, so I-80 Gold had news out today. I-80 Gold intersects 12.3 grams per ton gold over 10.7 meters in new target at Ruby Hill. So that makes for about 130 gram meters metal factor, which is very excellent. Those are the kind of numbers that you see where mines are developed. They were pleased to announce drilling has identified a new zone of high-grade mineralization in the first hole drilled to test a new target area at the company's 100% owned Ruby Hill project located in Eureka County, Nevada. They just keep getting great stuff. Later on, you're going to see a map, and I'll show you more about that. But let's keep to this news about the drill hole. Higher grade gold mineralization was intersected in the first hole drilled to test continuity of a historic intercept below the Archimedes pit. A historic hole drilled by Homestake intersected 15 grams of gold over 5.5 meters. However, no additional drilling was ever completed. Late in 2022 drill program, this target was tested with a step-out hole that intersected high-grade mineralization at the projected depth. Highlight results, as they state, is 12.3 grams per ton gold over 10.7 meters. The 428 zone is located approximately 300 meters east of the southern portion of the Ruby Deeps zone and is one of several brownfields exploration targets tested in the highly successful program at Ruby Hill. The program resulted in multiple gold, polymetallic, and base metal discoveries, including the Hilltop zone where drilling was returned high carbonate replacement mineralization, including 515 grams of silver, 28.9% lead, 10.5% zinc, 0.9 grams per ton gold over 28 meters. Another hole at that 426 zone hit like 60 grams and and hundreds of grams of silver. This hilltop zone is a real world-class discovery. Tyler Hill's the senior geologist of I-80, and he stated, our multiple discoveries made in 2022 highlight the potential of the mineralized system at Ruby Hill and confirm our model for the occurrence of multiple types of world-class high-grade deposits. Drilling is currently focused on expanding mineralization within the hilltop zones and the Blackjack Horizon, both of which are located in close proximity to the underground infrastructure currently being planned and permitted, end quote. So now I want to go down to this. Look at this gold distribution in the Ruby Deeps underneath the west side of the Archimedes historical pit. Higher in the system is 426, which gives you easy access to it's basically starts right at the bottom of this Archimedes pit. Here's that 426, 2022-65 that they announced today, and they're getting more high-grade gold over there. Here is the gold mineralization. Here's the Ruby Deeps. Here's their new 65 hole. That's a step out from the historical hole. Here's your Blackjack. You've got just tremendous things are being found at that Ruby Hill project. I believe they've got two world-class projects on their hands on one project in close proximity to a historical open pit. At the west side, you've got 426, you've got the Ruby Deeps, and then below that, and then back towards the east, you've got this new hit that they've made. So there's a big high-grade gold mineralizing system on the west side of the pit. Then you go on the south side of the pit, and you got this CRD situation where they found extremely high grades of silver, lead, zinc, and overprinted with high grade to bonanza grade gold. This is a phenomenal discovery. It's got an IP anomaly in close proximity to it that's associated with the faulting. This is going to be 426 is another world-class discovery. And then right beside that is your Blackjack Skarn. This is a very big and powerful gold and CRD Skarn mineralization system. And something big is pumping that into there. And I think the culprit for the CRD is that IP anomaly that's in close proximity to where they found the CRD. So now let's switch over to their stock and I-80 Gold. So there again, you see that they had a spectacular November run, carried through into December and January, has softened up as they were waiting for more assay results, and has come under the 50-day moving average. I would point out that in December, they went through a golden cross, that the 200-day moving average is already trending upwards. And I think the next big move is to see another breakout well above the 50-day moving average and take the company back into record all-time highs. This is a big company in the making. I think they're going to prove to be a multi-billion-dollar company. Currently, they're trading under $1 billion valuation, and I'm very bullish on what they're doing. Another company that I would advise you to go check out my rocksandstocks.substack.com. Yesterday, I did an interview with Brian Brewer and David, their CEO, and they've got a brand new discovery in Nevada. And I think that they're on the very early days of coming out with a string of important news releases from their drilling at this new discovery. There was historical mining on this property that had very high, reported high grades back around the World War II era. And there has been some drilling since then, limited drilling, but all of that drilling was vertical. And they believe that these are vertical zones that they have on the property. So if you drill a vertical hole, you very well could miss a vertical deposit. And even if you were to hit it, it wouldn't be representative because you would be drilling right down the dip of it. But what they've done differently is they're drilling angled holes into these vertical bodies. And they've already talked about the mineralization that they hit, and it looks pretty impressive. I think that they've got some good stuff coming out. And there's two reasons why I invite you to check out this particular video that, again, you can find at roxandstocks.substack.com. Brian Brewer is a very talented geologist. He was part of the team that found and built mine finders that subsequently was taken over. It was a huge success in the back a couple decades ago. But why I like this video particularly is not only is he very good at telling the Masivo Silver story, but the way he looks at exploration and what he explained of how they're doing it on their Nevada project, I think is very helpful for investors in this space to understand the way a successful explorer goes about exploring a project. And so I invite you to check out that interview, not just because I believe that Masivo, with a tiny little valuation, is going to deliver results that will make their valuation go up quite significantly. But I think there's a lot to be learned from Brian Brewer about how exploration is done. And for investors in exploration stocks, he gave you some great information there that I think will be important to your journey to look at treasure hunter companies doing exploration and look for buried treasures. All right, so that's my show for today. Stay tuned. I'm working on some new interviews. I've got one coming out later today, and then I'm working on some more as well. And then tomorrow I'll do more of this in the news stuff. So on that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.